In the 16th incarnation of the Godhead, the Lord, as Bhṛgupati, annihilated the administrative class, kṣatriyas, 21 times, being angry with them because of their rebellion against the brāhmaṇas, the intelligent class. Purport. The kṣatriyas, or the administrative class of men, are expected to rule the planet by the direction of the intelligent class of men, who give direction to the rulers in terms of the standard kṣatriyas, or the books of revealed knowledge. The rulers carry on the administration according to that direction. Whenever there is disobedience on the part of the kṣatriyas or the administrative class against the orders of the learned and intelligent brāhmanas, the administrators are removed by force from the post and arrangements are made for better administration. Mukam karoti vachalam pungang langayate garim yat kripa tamaham bande Śrī Gurundinataranam. So, as we're going through descriptions about the different incarnations of the Lord, now we come to the 16th in the line, and this is Bhṛgupati, or Parāśara, or sometimes just referred to as Ram. Lord Parāśara is the son of Renuka and the Sapta Rishi known as Jamadagni. There's 7 Sapta Rishis. They're progenitors of the entire universe. They have their own planets. And Jamadagni, he gave birth to the Lord in his form as a powerful personality that was going to cut down the pride of the kṣatriyas who had rebelled against the brāhmanas. The word here is Brahma Druho, or Brahma Druha is one who gives trouble to the brāhmanas. Sometimes Srila Prabhupada would refer to this word, which is called Guru Druha, one who is a killer of his guru, or one who gives trouble to his guru. Once there was a secretary of Srila Prabhupada, a very learned devotee, but he became envious of his own spiritual master and dared even at one point to ask him for his blessings. Prabhupada, give me your blessings that I can find out one better guru. And Prabhupada was very disturbed by this. And even in a lecture, he said that this person is Guru Druha, and he warned against this, about killing the spiritual master, giving trouble to the spiritual master. Very serious. So similarly, the brāhmanas, they are the spiritual masters of society, and if the kṣatriyas, those who are supposed to protect the human society, go against the rule of the brāhmanas, then they are brahmadruho, and they sometimes must be dethroned or even killed. The word here is nripan. As far as I understand, pan refers to someone who is worthy of praise. So nripan, amongst the human society, they are praiseworthy, but when they become brahmadruha, then when Lord Parāśara saw, Pashan brahmadruho nripan, that they had rebelled against the brahmana, then he actually killed them, not once, but 21 times, the entire civilization of Kshatriya kings. So, in the 9th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, it describes the history of Lord Parāśara. So I'm going to switch to my PowerPoint presentation. You should be seeing, oops, that's at the end of the presentation. So how do I get to the beginning? Okay. go to the beginning. Come on. Let's see. Sorry, so you can see all the slides here. Okay, that's the beginning of the slide. One challenge with showing a PowerPoint or anything on this kind of a meeting is it's going to be a little bit choppy. So anyway, we'll do our best here. But for those who cannot see this, I'll try and describe what we're looking at here. There's this very nice BBT painting of Lord Parāśara with his axe killing thousands and thousands of kṣatriyas and just blasting the sky with his power. You know, there's these black clouds, and Lord Parāśara's got an effulgence like the sun, and he's killing all the kṣatriyas. So Krishna is Vibhu. He's Anu and Vibhu. He's the smallest and he's the greatest. So he's the greatest in his kṣatriya spirit. That's where we get any qualities from, the reservoir of all qualities. So Krishna appeared in the incarnation of Parāśara in order to show kṣatriya prowess and to kill those who are unworthy of being called kṣatriyas. So as described in the 9th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the appearance of Lord Vṛષabhadeva, actually what we'll need to do is to go back actually to his grandfather. Krishna, of course, doesn't have a father or a mother, relatives. He's the Lord of everyone. He's the father of everyone. But yet he takes on so-called fathers and mothers to those qualified devotees. So we can go back to his grandfather. Here we go. There's a picture of a rishi. We can. This would be Richika Muni. There's an artist rendition of Richika Muni, great sage, and at some point he desired to marry, and he became very attracted to the daughter of King Gadi. Was a very great king. He had a daughter of unimaginable beauty and qualification. Her name was Satyavatī, not to be confused with the Satyavatī of the Mahabharata that gave birth to Śrī Vyāsadeva and was the grandmother of the Pandavas. But this is another Satyavatī, also equally very, very qualified. And the king did not want necessarily to give his daughter to a rishi because of the austere life. So he made a very difficult requirement that he had to get thousands of horses of a particular breed and 1,000 different horses. Anyway, it was almost impossible to do. But he approached Varuna after severe austerities and was able to procure these horses anyway after undergoing severe austerities. And he was granted this daughter of the king Gadi. So the devoted wife, Satyavatī, she adopted the same lifestyle as that of the Muni and performed all kinds of austerities along with him, living in a hermitage in the mountains, in the forest. But eventually she pleased the Muni so much that the Muni granted her desire to have a son. So she asked for the benediction of a very, very good son. That's what she wanted. So the Muni, in order to make sure that she had a very saintly son, with the force of his austerities through incantations, he made an oblation, which was meant for sacrifice, and it was in the form of a pot of sweet rice, I believe that's what it was. We find in the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, also instances of this, just like when Lord Ramachandra and Satrugna and Bharata and Lakshmana, they were all born. They were born because I think it was Vasishta had given oblations of sweet rice for them to drink, for the queens to drink, and therefore they were able to get pregnant with the personalities of Godhead themselves. And there's other instances of that, just like Drupada. He also wanted an illustrious son, so similar thing to happen to his queen with these oblations. So it's very, very important how in Vedic culture you can imbue an oblation to give you a particular result. So this sweet rice, or whatever it was in the pot, was imbued like that. And Richika Muni, he went to the river to take a ritualistic bath before the ceremony. In the meantime, the queen, the mother of Satyavatī, Queen Gaudi's queen, she asked her daughter that, actually there was 2 oblations that were prepared, one for the daughter, and also Richika Muni agreed to make one for the mother. But when he went to go take bath, she was thinking, the queen was thinking that he must love my daughter more, so obviously she's got a better oblation. And she begged her daughter, you please, let's switch. You give me your oblation, I'll give you mine. And the daughter was, submissive. So she let the mother switch the oblations. And then when Richika Muni came back, by his mystic powers, he immediately understood what had happened. Excuse me. And he chastised his wife for doing this. He said, because you've done this, I've imbued this offering so that now your son will not be a saintly, peaceful brāhmana, but he'll be imbued with kṣatriya nature of fierceness like the world has never seen. So his wife begged Satyavatī begged him to please do something to reverse this, and the sage was compassionate on his wife because of her good qualities, and made a slight adjustment. Said, okay, your son will be a saintly brāhmana, but his son will be someone of great kṣatriya temperament. So as it turned out, the son of Satyavatī was Jamadagni. Jamadagni is, as I said, one of the Saptarishis. He was austere, very tolerant, a perfect brāhmana, saintly person, as you would expect. But his son, he had several sons, I think 5 altogether. The youngest of them was the Lord himself, Parāśara. Oops, I forgot to turn the darn thing. Here's a little picture I found from a comic book about Satyavatī. Got to keep up with the slides. Oh, and describe what they are. So what we're doing now, for those who can't see, is we're looking at a slide of Satyavatī. So Satyavatī gave birth to Jamadagni, and Jamadagni married this Renuka, and one of their sons was Ram, or Parāśara. So here is a beautiful picture of Parāśara with his chopper, his bow, very fulgent. So the history of Lord Ram, in order to understand him, we'll tell another history, and that of Kartavirya Arjuna. There was a great king who would later be known as Sahasra Arjuna. His name was Arjuna, so either Kartavirya Arjuna or Sahasra Arjuna. He wanted to be a great king, and actually he's considered one of the, some say, the 7 greatest monarchs that have ever lived. But he became very, very powerful by worshiping Dattatreya. We had just discussed Dattatreya last week. He is an incarnation of Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, and Lord Vishnu combined. So this king, Kartavirya Arjuna, he worshipped him with great austerities and penances and prayed to him for boon. Here's a picture that we're looking at here of, you see the back of the king, Kartavirya Arjuna, and in the sky you see the incarnation of Dattatreya. So he received the boon from Lord Dattatreya that he would become a very, very powerful kshatriya with 1,000 arms, along with many other mystic powers. So because of this, his ego became too much, and it became very, very inflated. So as with anyone, you have to be very, very careful that with power comes corruption. So this Kartavirya Arjuna became very puffed up. At one time, he had gone to the river, I think it was the Narmada, I believe, and he came there with his huge entourage, thousands of people and many of his women, and he wanted to show his power. So with his 1,000 arms, he stopped the Narmada, but upstream, the powerful Ravana, who we will hear about in tomorrow in Lord Ram's pastimes, Ravana was feared all over the universe. So he was also very proud kshatriya. So he was camped with his entire army upstream, and because Kartavirya Arjuna was so powerful, he stopped the stream and it overflooded the encampment. So he came, Ravana came with his army and attacked this Kartavirya Arjuna. And Kartavirya Arjuna very easily defeated Ravana, which is amazing. You'll hear about the pastime tomorrow, I'm sure, how powerful Ravana was. But yet, Kartavirya Arjuna very easily defeated his entire army and Ravana himself. And I'm going to turn to the next slide. There's a kind of a comic book slide here of Kartavirya Arjuna capturing Ravana, who had 10 heads and many, many arms, defeating his army, and he very neglectfully released Ravana after that. It's described just like if one traps a wild monkey and then sets him free. So this way we can get a little sense of how powerful this personality was, especially when we hear tomorrow about Lord Ram's pastimes. So after this, Kartavirya Arjuna, he traveled north, where he met the sage Jamadagni, the father of Parāśara, in his forest hermitage. Now, Jamadagni, he had a Kamadhenu. Kamadhenu means a wish-fulfilling cow. These cows, sometimes there's descriptions about certain sages, like Vashishta also had a Kamadhenu cow. And a similar thing happened to Vashishta Muni with his Kamadhenu cow, with Vishwamitra Muni, who later became a Muni. This Kartavirya Arjuna, in the same way as with Vishwamitra and Vashishta, he very much appreciated this Kamadhenu cow. He became envious of Jamadagni that he had the cow, because this cow is so powerful that being a Kamadhenu, it can fulfill any desires that one has. So when the king came with his retinue of these thousands of soldiers and all of his womenfolk, etc., the Kamadhenu cow, even though they were in a forest hermitage, easily provided edibles and comforts for them. The Kartaviriya Arjuna was amazed, and he wanted the Kamadhenu cow for himself, so he stole it from the Muni and took it back to his capital, which is called Mahishmati. I believe I'm pronouncing that correct. Mahishmati is like in central India on the bank of the Narmada. So when Lord Parāśara came back to his father's hermitage and he learned what had happened, he went into a rage, exhibiting his kshatriya prowess, and he immediately went to this Mahishmati, capital of Kartaviriya Arjuna, to attack it with his bow and his axe and his arrows. And when the Lord appeared there, even Kartaviriya Arjuna was frightened by his prowess, so he sent out thousands, tens, and actually it's described hundreds of thousands. Oh, I forgot to turn the darn slide, sorry. This is a picture of the cows being taken by Kartaviriya Arjuna from the hermitage, and then the next slide is that of Lord Parāśara engaged in battle. So there was a battle. Hundreds of thousands of troops were sent out to battle with Parāśara, and Parāśara alone killed all of them. It's described that the battlefield became muddy with headless and armless trunks and torsos, became muddy with blood. So Kartaviriya Arjuna, being very courageous, he came out in the battle to fight himself, and with his 1,000 arms, he worked 500 bows and 500, fixing 500 arrows, and attacked Parāśara, who only had one bow and one axe, but yet Parāśara smashed Kartaviriya Arjuna, so much so that Kartaviriya Arjuna had to uproot trees and hills, but no matter what he would do, he could not withstand the prowess of the personality of Godhead. So Lord Parāśara sliced off each of the 1,000 arms of Kartaviriya Arjuna and finally beheaded him. So here's a picture of Lord Parāśara fighting Kartaviriya Arjuna. It's kind of symbolic here. You see the cow there along with Jamadagni and his wife Satyavatī in the background. So when after the killing of Kartaviriya Arjuna, when the Lord came back to his father's ashram, Jamadagni was very displeased with him, and he chastised him very strongly. And I have a quote here, translation. He said, "O great hero, you have unnecessarily killed the king who is supposed to be the embodiment of all the demigods. Thus you have committed a sin. We brāhmaṇas are worshipped by others only due to our quality of forgiveness. It is through this quality of forgiveness that Lord Brahma has achieved the post of master of the entire universe." Oh, I'm sorry. I need to go to the next slide. Whoops. See, this is a picture of Lord Parāśara going back to the hermitage of his father Jamadagni, and Jamadagni is chastising him and giving him instruction. So the personality of Godhead, Lord Hari, the remover of obstacles, becomes pleased with those who are forgiving. Forgiveness is illuminating like the sun, and the accumulation of this quality is the Brahmana's duty. So this is the quality, of course, his father instructing him. So Rishi Jamadagni, he told his son that you should atone for your sins, and you should visit all the holy places. So Lord Parāśara, being of affection and very obedient to his father, he and all his other brothers, as I say, I think there was 4 other brothers, they all went on pilgrimage to all the holy places, and they were gone for about 1 year. In the meantime, Kartavirya Arjuna, he actually had, I believe it was 10,000 sons. So they all ran, fled as soon as they saw that their father had been killed, and all these kṣatriyas were, hundreds of thousands of kṣatriyas were killed by Parāśara alone. So when Parāśara went on pilgrimage for 1 year, the sons of Kartavirya Arjuna, they came to the ashram of Jaganagni. And while Jaganagni was sitting by the sacrificial, in front of the sacrificial fire and meditating in trance, they mercilessly killed him. Even though Renuka, I'm sorry, I said Satyavatī before. Renuka is the wife of Jaganagni. Renuka pleaded with them not to harm her husband, but yet they were mercilessly, they beheaded the sage and they took his head away back to their capital. So when this happened, Renuka piteously cried out, "Ram, Ram!" And Ram and the brothers, they heard her. And when they came to the ashram, they saw what had happened. And Parāśara could not tolerate this. And that's where he vowed that I will kill the entire kṣatriya race, rid them from this earth, 21 times. So we see in this verse how it says, so Tri Sapta, Sapta 7, Tri, so Tri Sapta, 3 times 7, 21 times Kritva Kupito, being very, very angry with the kṣatriyas, he will nik kshatram karon mahin, he will rid the earth of these kṣatriya kings. Kshat means to hurt, and trayate means to deliver from. So kṣatriya is supposed to protect the citizens from injury through the directions of the brāhmaṇas, but because they were disobedient rascals, even daring to kill a brāhmana to the level, to such a great personality like the father of Parāśara, Jaganagni, therefore, ni kshatram karon mahin, he rid the earth 21 times of the race of kṣatriyas. So, boy, time is really passing here. I'll try and go through this a little bit more quickly. So Parāśara, he sped away to the Mahishmati, the capital, and just as Kartavirya army before, and Kartavirya himself, he killed all the sons who had mercilessly beheaded the father of Parāśara. And here's the next slide. That's a kind of a, what's it called? Anyway, it's moving. Anyway, I thought it was a nice, cute slide of Lord Parāśara with fire in the background. Animated GIF, that's what it's called, animated GIF, anyway, whatever. So when Parāśara, when he came and he started fighting against these sons of Kartavirya Arjuna, just as they had mercilessly cut the head of his father, he similarly cut their heads and made a mountain of their heads. And when the other kṣatriya kings of the world saw a river of blood, they also became terribly fearful of this incarnation. So at Samanta Panchaka, which is near Kurukshetra, which of course Kurukshetra is where Krishna, thousands and thousands of years later, because this happened almost 2 million years ago in the Treta Yuga. So thousands of years after this, Krishna would speak the Bhagavad Gita in Kurukshetra. So near that place is called Samanta Panchaka, and that's where Lord Parāśara, he created 9 lakes filled with the blood of all these kṣatriya kings. And then he returned to his father's hermitage with the head of his father. He rejoined the head of his father to his body, and by his divine power, being the personality of Godhead, Jamanagni, he immediately woke up just like from a restful sleep. So that's some of the history of Lord Parāśara. He is one of the Chiranjivas, which means that he will exist in this world as long as the earth exists. The others are like Śrī Vyāsadeva, who we will talk about next. Ashvatthama is also a Chiranjeev. But throughout the Mahabharata and the Ramayana, there are many pastimes of Lord Parāśara in connection with Karna, Dronacharya. He taught Bhishmadev martial arts. There's also pastimes with Lord Dattatreya. But specifically, I wanted to point out that both Parāśara and another Saptarishi, Agastya Muni, they were the founders of Kalari. That's actually the technical full name is Kalari Payattu. I was not aware of this until I started doing some research into it yesterday. But actually, Kalari is the mother. I practiced martial arts for almost 2 decades, on and off. And everyone knows that the martial arts were originally brought to China from India by a monk who was spreading Buddhism. His name was Bodhidharma. But Bodhidharma, he practiced Kalari. That's what it was. And I didn't know that until I started studying it. So it is the origin of all martial arts of the world. Lord Parāśara, he taught a type of Kalari, which is it's kṣatriyas, the knowledge of weapons, that was taught to him directly by Lord Shiva. Of course, he's a personality of Godhead. He doesn't need to be taught by anyone, but he received his knowledge from Lord Shiva, and his knowledge is that of weaponry, and Agastya, which is more practiced in South India, was developed in South India. That's more like weaponless combat, grappling arts, and like that. So Bodhidharma, who is known to be the founder of Zen Buddhism, he practiced Kapalari, and when he traveled to China to spread Buddhism, he brought the martial arts with him. He taught the Shaolin monks, and that is the basis of Kung Fu. So let's go to the next slide here. So here's some traditional Kalari fighters with sword, shields. The next slide is that of them doing different types of martial moves. And then this one, now for anyone that can't see this, this is going to be a 3-minute, I cut it down just a little bit over 3 minutes. It's a video of showing how Bharatanatyam dancing has many of the moves hidden within it, or that have come from this Kapalari martial arts, which is really amazing. You know, just like there's the, what's it called? Capoeira. It's a martial arts that developed with, in Brazil. The slaves had developed this into the form of a dance because they were not allowed to have any weapons. And they were able to practice all of their moves by hiding the moves within the dance. And later on they were able to become free from the Portuguese using these martial techniques. So within Bharatanatyam dance, also there's moves which are directly from Capoeira, and I was amazed when I was looking at this. I said, "Oh my God, these are martial moves." Here's a little bit of a 3-minute video. It's going to be a little choppy on your end, but later on I have it posted if anybody wants to see it. It comes in 4 parts. It's quite long, but extremely interesting. Anyway, I am going to play this. How are we going to hear this? Hold on, 1 second here. I'm going to turn up my volume, and hopefully you'll be able to hear the audio, because that's the most important thing. Anyway, just 1 second.
The deep roots of Kalari in southern Indian culture are demonstrated by the way that movements from the fighting techniques are found in their dances. The Indian classical dance style, Bharatanatyam, is known to date from at least the 2nd century AD. The dances tell the stories of the Hindu gods and goddesses. Each posture, each movement has a meaning. The dancers perform a language of gesture. Since the postures of the dance were set at least 2,000 years ago, it follows that any fighting postures in the dances were used at that time. After their exercises, they move on to the actual dances. They match their dance to the words that Master Lakshmi sings. This is a fighting stance, used throughout the Far East and called tiger hands. Some postures are obviously martial, like drawing an arrow. When Kalari fighters pull back from an attack, this is their movement, followed by a swift attack forward.
Okay, I was just recommended that maybe this was a little too much, so I turned it off. Anyway, very interesting stuff if anyone wants to look at it. Later it shows the different moves actually in martial arts. But anyway, enough of that. Fine. So that was something about Lord Parāśara. Now we'll go on to the next verse. So this is verse 21 about Śrī Vyāsadeva, the next incarnation of the Lord. Text 21 is Tata Sapta Dishe Jata Satyavatī Parāśara Veda Tayor Shaka Drishva Pungso Pamedasaha. Translation. Thereafter, in the 17th incarnation of Godhead, Śrī Vyāsadeva appeared in the womb of Satyavatī through Parāśara Muni, and he divided the one Veda into several branches and sub-branches, seeing that the people in general were less intelligent. Purport. Originally, the Veda is one, but Śrī Vyāsadeva divided the original Veda into 4, namely Sama, Yajur, Rik, Atharva, and then again they were explained in different branches like the Puranas and the Mahabharata. Vedic language and the subject matter are very difficult for ordinary men. They are understood by highly intelligent and self-realized brāhmaṇas. But the present age of Kali is full of ignorant men. Even those who are born by a Brahmana father are in the present age no better than the Sudras or the women. The twice-born men, namely the Brahmanas, Kṣatriyas, and Vaishyas, are expected to undergo the cultural purificatory process known as sanskaras. But because of the bad influence of the present age, the so-called members of the Brahmana and other higher order families are no longer highly cultured. They are called Dvija Bandhus, or the friends and family members of the twice-born. But these Dvija Bandhus are classified amongst the Sudras and the women. Similarly, Vyāsadeva divided the Vedas into various branches and sub-branches for the sake of the less intelligent class, like the Dvija Bandhus, Sudras, and women. Okay, so here we have a picture of Śrīla Vyāsadeva holding the Vedas and a quill in his hand. So he is the compiler of all the Vedic literatures. Just 1 second. Trying to move some of my screens around here. Not so easy to do. Just one moment, please. So, he is the, Śrīla Vyāsadeva appeared as the son of Satyavatī by the sage Parāśara Muni. What time is almost 7:30, so I don't know how much more history I can say at this time. But the sage wanted to benedict the world by having Śrīla Vyāsadeva appear in order to divide the Vedas, because as Srila Prabhupada says in his purport, that the Vedas are very difficult to understand. In this verse, it's described that it's the Vedas are kalpataru. Yes, see. Veda tayor. So just like we talked about a desire cow, Kamadhenu. So similarly, the Vedas are compared to a kalpavriksha, or a wish-fulfilling tree. Anything that you approach the tree to get, it will immediately give you whatever your desire is. That's why it's called desire tree, a kalpavriksha. So the Vedas are also compared to a kalpavriksha. They're called Veda tayor. So this Vyāsadeva, he was born by the name Dvaipayana, actually, because he was island born. He went back to that island in order to write the Srimad Bhagavatam. I'll tell the story really quick if I can. There was one great king, King Vasu, who desired very much to have good sons to keep the kingdom going, saintly son, but he was, unfortunately, he was in the forest, and at the time, there's a circumstance where he passed semen, and his semen was so sacred, he had to keep it preserved, so he put his semen in a leaf and asked a hawk, because he could speak the language of the hawks. He asked, take this package back to my queen. She will be able to utilize it and give birth. You know, we're talking in another age, they were able to do this. So the hawk, as he was flying, He was attacked by a rival hawk, and they had a fight in the air. And then the leaf, which kept the semen, the seed of this king Vasu, fell into the river. In the river, there was a fish. This was not an ordinary fish. This was actually a goddess by the name of Adrika, who had been cursed by Lord Brahma to take the birth of a fish, and she would not be relieved of it, of this birth, until she was, went through so many years of suffering like that. So she was actually a beautiful goddess from the heavenly planets, Adrika. And when she saw this semen, she immediately swallowed it up. When she swallowed it, later on, there was a fisherman that caught the fish, and when he opened it up, Adrika went back to the heavenly planets, being relieved, but there was two human-like babies within the womb of the body of the fish. One was female and one a male. So the fisherman took these two babies to the king. The king accepted the boy, saying that this one will be mine, but the girl had a very fishy odor and said, this one will be yours. So the fisherman was very happy to take this girl, and that child became a great king whose name was Matsya Ganda. But anyway, the girl, she was famous because of her beauty, even though she had this fishy odor, and her duty was to ply a boat back and forth on the river. And one time, Parāśara Muni, great sage, saw her, and with his spiritual vision could see that this is no ordinary girl. This is actually the daughter of King Vasu, very, very qualified. And so he wanted to have a child by her because as a great sage, he wanted to benedict the world with the birth of a sage that would save the inhabitants of the Kali Yuga by writing down the Vedas. So he approached her, and she could see by his countenance that he actually didn't have lust. But and she believed what he said, that with his innocence, that he simply needed her to help him in his mission. But still, she was, shy, and she was a virgin. So she said, "How can I possibly do this? How can I go back to my father's house?" She was afraid, to offend the sage, because she had always heard of Parāśara Muni, but pleaded with the sage, "Please, what am I supposed to do? I can't join with you. I'm a young girl. I'm protected, and what would my father say?" I said, "My dear girl, don't worry. By my mystic power, I will make sure that even after you join with me, you will remain a virgin." So then she said, "Okay, but what about all the sages on both sides of the river in this holy place? We certainly can't do this in public." So he just laughed at her innocence, and by his mystic power, he created a fog, a dense fog, that shrouded the boat. So she was amazed, and there was nothing else that she could do. So the Muni said, "If you do this service for me to bring this child into the world, then I will give you whatever you want." So she immediately said, "Please get rid of this fishy odor that spoils my other than that, my perfect beauty." So immediately she was given this benediction, and it was said that she had such an attractive aroma from 8 miles away. You could smell the aroma from her body. It was so perfumed. So that's how Lord Vyāsadeva was conceived. She gave birth immediately to Vyāsadeva, and he immediately grew into a youth. And she left him on the island in the middle of the Yamuna. And the sage said that, "My dear mother, if you ever need me in the future, all you have to do think of me and I'll immediately come to you. So that's how Śrīla Vyāsadeva took his birth. And as Srila Prabhupada was pointing out in the purport, Śrīla Vyāsadeva, seeing the age of Kali approaching and how people would be Alpamedasa, very much less intelligent, without the ability to understand the Vedas in its entirety. He divided the original Veda into 4, the Sama, the Yajur, the Rika, and the Atharva Veda, and then further into sub-branches, into the Upanishads, into the Puranas, the Itihasas like the Mahabharata and the Ramayana, and finally the Vedanta Sutras, even beyond that was a conclusion, codified all the knowledge at the conclusion of the Vedas. But still he wasn't satisfied, and therefore he went back to this island, and he wrote the Śrīmad Bhagavatam for the Divija Bandhus. Divija means twice born, just like anybody takes his birth in this world. But a human being, it's one who is perfect. The higher classes must be Divija. They must be second born. Sometimes a bird is called Divija because it takes birth from the egg, and then later on it pops out from the egg. So it takes 2 births, Divija. So similarly, we have to take 2 births, one by the father and mother, everyone has, but the second birth is by the spiritual master, the father, and Vedic knowledge, the mother. But in this age, we are Divija Bandhus, or simply the friends or family members, not really Divijas. We're very much unqualified in this age, so therefore Śrīla Vyāsadeva very mercifully wrote the Vedic literatures, and specifically the Śrīmad Bhagavatam, in order to guide people in this age, and therefore we are indebted to Śrīla Vyāsadeva for what he has done. And then this is the last slide, and that's Śrīla Vyāsadeva sitting in front of Lord Ganesh, reciting the Śrīmad Bhagavatam. Lord Ganesh cooperated with Śrīla Vyāsadeva in order to write down all the Vedic literatures for people in this age who don't have the memories that we had in previous ages. And there's a picture of Arjuna and Krishna on the chariot above. So I guess he's reciting the Bhagavad Gita, or the Mahabharata at this point. So anyway, I put together this little slideshow here. I hope that was constructive. I'll have this available along with yesterday's lecture later on today. If anybody wants to see more about the martial arts, I found that very interesting. Anyway, you can see that there. I am going to, at this time, unmute everybody. Unmute. Let's see. Off. Okay, so everybody's unmuted right now. I went a little bit over. It's about 7:40 Hawaii time right now. So if anyone has any questions or comments they would like to contribute, we have a few minutes, I suppose, we can spend on that. But please go ahead.
Ramananda, that's a wonderful class. My God, that's so well planned and researched. I have to go back and listen again. There's just so much information packed into that, your presentation. It was wonderful. Do you happen to know how Ganesh came on board to assist Vyāsadeva? You just have him sitting there with Vyāsadeva, and I'm looking at your slide, which is still up. Do you know the Leela of how Ganesh got involved?
No, I did not read that part of the Mahabharata, so I can't say. I just know what I've heard devotees say. A little bit I read. Yeah, Wikipedia or something, so I can't really say.
Oh, another little question I had, maybe someone else knows that, they could chime in, but I want to ask you, in the very, very beginning of your class, you were talking about a devotee who had asked Prabhupada to grant his blessings for him to find a better guru. That was in Hawaii, I believe. How did Prabhupada answer that question? You didn't say. And was that relationship ever rectified?
No, that was not in Hawaii.
It wasn't?
No, you're not. I don't think you're thinking the person I was referring to. I don't
okay, all right. And
but
how did Prabhupada answer the question when he asked
Prabhupada
for blessings?
Was very disturbed that he would ask such a thing of his guru, of his spiritual master. Please bless me by letting me find somebody better than you. Prabhupada warned us. He just said he was so disturbed by this. But later on, he didn't answer the question, in other words. It was just such an insult. But later on, Srila Prabhupada was asking about his welfare, how he was doing, like that. He still had concern and compassion for him. But at the time, he was very disturbed that he would do something like this. And he made a point to warn everybody else about Guru Druha. So I don't think the exchange was like recorded or anything like that. But the descriptions are there in Srila Prabhupada's biographies about this incident.
Very nice class. Thank you.
You wanted to go to the Babajis.
Oh.
He was a scholar, and Prabhupada cursed him basically at the moment. Anyone who jumps over the guru is in serious trouble immediately, and a few of Prabhupada's disciples did that. It was garbled right at the moment that you were telling who the personality of martial arts. Who was that?
Oh, that was Bodhidharma.
Bodhidharma, and he's from Kerala.
Sorry.
From where? Burma, you said, or?
Well, he just, we're talking about a few thousand years ago, so there's a lot of controversy, or just don't know exactly where he came from. But, amongst all the martial artists, anybody who knows martial arts history knows that Bodhidharma was the monk that came out of India with the martial arts, and he taught it to the Shaolin monks. There's no question about that. But it turns out that, this Kalari, that's what he taught. And I didn't know that all those years I studied the martial arts. I had no idea. And it wasn't until I started that I did a little research and I saw this film, and then they showed the connection with the Bharatanatyam. I cut it off early. I thought maybe we were playing too much of it. But the next part of the film there shows the moves, actually the martial moves, where they're fighting with sticks and fighting each other, the grappling art.
I think
shows the Bharatanatyam dance.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen it. I was sorry you got censored there. But
I'll have it posted if anybody wants to watch it.
Okay.
It's like 4 parts, an hour long.
I've seen some of the pictures that you've shown before, or similar pictures, and they're martial artists in Kerala.
Yeah.
It's still being practiced, that form.
Yeah, evidently Agastya Muni taught the unarmed combat, and that's more in the south. And then the north is more of the fighting arts with weapons. But of course, we're talking about this came down to this world 2 million years ago, so things have had time to change since then. It's a shame. It's just like I was going to say, just like the Ayurveda or just like astrology. You can sometimes meet people that know something about it. There's something there, but just over the ages, it's been lost. you can tell there's some great cultures and great truths there, but just in the Kali Yuga, the whole thing has been lost, and there's just little snippets, little pieces left.
I get a minor adjustment for a detail early on. In the the rice porridge, it was in a golden chalice, was presented to King Dasarath himself by a celestial being who appeared out of the fire at the end of his yajna to be blessed with a son and heir to the throne. And in a deep voice, the celestial being announced that this porridge had been prepared by the demigods and that the king should give it to his queens and they would have sons. Vashishta was certainly the presiding priest at the sacrifice, but Rai Shringa, he was brought in to lead the chanting, to make sure that it was properly done.
Very nice, thank you.
But I like your, I like this presentation, and I'm looking forward to doing something like this in the future. I like that we have this facility with Start Meeting, where you can do some slides while you're speaking.
Great. How did the movie come out? Was that real choppy?
The sound was difficult.
Yeah, you know what? I forgot about the sound. Jeez. Anyway, it would have been.
But anyway, we'll perfect. As time goes on, we'll figure it out.
Okay. All right. Good. Well, I'm glad Gaudis liked it. Okay. Anything?
A little something about Ganesh, for who we had the interesting discussion the other day about Wikipedia. So for whatever it's worth, it is described that Vyas asked Ganesh to aid him in writing the text. However, Ganesh imposed a condition that he would do so only if Vyas narrated the story without pause, to which Vyas made a counter condition that Ganesh must understand the verse before he transcribed it. Anyway, little interesting snippet.
So Śrī Vyāsadeva would speak some complicated, very philosophical verse, and he'd have to think about it for a while.
Śrī Vyāsadeva would take the time up to compose the verses.
Oh, who's speaking?
Balabhadra.
Oh, Balabhadra Prabhu. Hare Krishna. You were able to make it. I'm sorry. It took...
Yeah.
I can't see everybody who's here right now.
I've been listening to the last half hour.
Oh, very good.
Yeah. That story, The Vyāsadeva imposed that counter measure in order to give himself more time to compose newer verses. If Ganesh wouldn't be able to write it down until he could understand it completely, and during the time that he would try to understand it, so Vyāsadeva would compose newer and newer stanzas, the Mahabharata.
Nice.
Hare Krishna. The way Lord Ganesh became involved was when Vyasadeva was considering how to get it written down, Lord Brahma came to him and said, since you're calling this a poem, you should have Ganesh write it down for you because he's the perfect scribe for writing down poems. So that's how he originally was brought into the Leela.
Oh, great.
Nice.
I have a question. Dvaipana Vyasadeva. So Dweep, the island that you mentioned in the Jamuna, is in the title of Veda Vyas. Was he conceived on that island?
Yes. He was conceived on the island. That's why it's called Vaipayana. Island conceived, or island born.
Okay.
And then later on, when he divided the Vedas, he was given the title Veda Vyas. with the Vajra.
Where is that Leela recorded of how Śrī Vyāsadeva was conceived? Is that from the Mahabharata?
That's in the Mahabharata.
Yes, it is in the Mahabharata.
Well, who could believe such a story except a devotee? Imagine if you weren't. Imagine before we're devotees, somebody told us that story about the hawks and the leaf and the semen, and I would think this is like crazy.
In the Mahabharata and the Ramayana, you'll find that the stories are more and more far out the farther back you get. This is my opinion. Well, maybe I shouldn't say it. Okay, this is a philosophical speculation. It just seems like the farther back in history you go, the universe, the more far out things happen. Whereas the closer you get to like the Kali Yuga, the more like normal they are. Because our duration of life gets small, our intelligence gets small, our stature is small, everything becomes smaller. So it's like you go back millions of years, and there's these amazing things, powers that beings had, and far out pastimes and stuff like that are described that are beyond our imagination. Like we don't see those kind of things, in our Kali Yuga environment. We're just like real dull.
That's a great point, Ramananda. That makes a whole lot of sense. That's a really good point.
Kind of like fungus, there's not a whole lot of action going on there. They are living beings, but they're probably not the most intelligent, active things around. They just kind of just grow. So if you try and...
There's probably some stories that you want to gloss over. It's one thing to read them, and it's one thing, but since they are, in a sense, on some level controversial, or it like the word crazy came up in the description that Narhari Prabhu that they're so far out that it's probably better to just gloss over some parts of the Leela and just bring in things that people can digest.
Mm-hmm. When I was preparing for this class, a lot of times I just don't have time to prepare for a class, but I did with this, and I was thinking, how much should I be mentioning here? But I figured that, this is we're all amongst devotees here, and why not just tell the entire pastime? So, but I know what you mean. Something so inconceivable. It's hard to understand.
One of Prabhupada's disciples actually brought a television into his room and showed him some clip on the moon, the moon landing. And Prabhupada didn't budge about, them not going to the moon, which is another major, that would be very hard for most people to swallow. But if you Google a funny thing happened on the way to the moon, there's a very compelling video that was done that really throws a big doubt into the whole idea of them going to the moon. And it's not like, it doesn't have the flavor of a conspiracy theory or nothing. It just keeps coming with very solid sort of science and objections with the very few photos that were taken. And Neil Armstrong never gave an interview in his life after that event.
Yeah, I saw that. I thought it was pretty good.
It throws a big doubt into the whole mix when you see that. Yeah.
About, there's, how come there's no crater when they took off? How come the shadows are completely going the wrong direction? Can only be done in the studio, and just all kinds of things like that. Why all the pictures are purposely blurred. was good.
Right. But
there's a ton of stuff on the internet.
Leaving the movement, he lost his faith. He lost his faith, basically, and left, the movement. And think of, people's faith that may not be so strong, and then we start talking about, fish producing human beings and all that stuff. Probably, when Fifth Canto came out, Srila Prabhupada called some of the leaders into the room and said, now you will all bloop, because the cosmology doesn't line up with the modern astronomy. He even left editing to Harikesh Maharaj. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut off. Did you finish with that, or can I say something? Thanks. Well, I was thinking I'm sorry?
Go ahead.
It just that thought came into my mind that with Aga Prabhu you mentioned, maybe we should bring up something that's easier to digest for people. But I think it's important for us to know those stories, and it came to my mind that it's equally difficult to digest that, let's say, Paramatma right now is in everybody's heart. Right at this moment that we have Krishna in our heart. And all, when we start thinking, like Maha Mantra is Krishna himself, those things are so difficult to digest. So, it depends what, and both stories, I think that it's good for us to know their history. So, anyway, just my 3 cents.
That's a nice point. I like that. I think both points are valid. Both your point and Vedant's point. For what it's worth. That's true. It's so inconceivable how God is not different from his name. I talk about that almost every Sunday. And what a foreign concept. Even the concept we're not our body. It's pretty far out.
Yeah. Anything you take in this in Krishna's nature is almost part is hard to imagine, even right now.
Yeah, I like that point. Good.
Prabhu, it is pretty late here.
These things get revealed in time, though. Okay. One last point to add to that. But Paramatma realization, Brahmasmi, these are attainable goals, through the practice of, that we've been given. And that Krishna is in his name, that's actually can be perceived at some point. The ancient stories are a little, I just let things go over my head. That's my approach to the whole thing. It's if I can't understand something, or I can't adjust to it, with my conditioning, I just let it go. And I'm thinking down the road, maybe I'll understand it. The flexibility of the material energy that way. But the Paramatma and the holy name and the jiva, that's, within a short time, someone can actually realize that.
But also, even these stories, like there's a point in Bhagavad Gita where Arjuna, kind of was all over his head, but then at a certain point, when he totally surrendered to Krishna, there's a famous verse, Sarvam etad vritam manye, that I totally accept as truth, everything that you say. Before, he may not have accepted it. So, though I may not understand Fifth Canto, I agree with you, that's way over my head, but at least I accept it. I may not understand it at this time, and maybe I'll understand it along the way, or maybe not. I don't know. Most important thing is I just want to understand my loving relationship with Krishna. But the same with these amazing stories. If I would have heard this before I was a devotee, I would have thought, well, this is just like, interesting, science fiction or something. But now I think it's pretty early in spiritual life. We get to the point where, we accept the Shastra as true. Understand it or not understand it, at least we accept it as true. And now I can accept, I have no problem accepting the hawks fighting, the semen falling in a leaf, and it getting swallowed and then into the fish, and some poor woman being cursed that she's beautiful but she smells like a fish. I mean, I never would have believed that before, but now I have no problem believing it, just because I reached a point in spiritual life where I just accept the Shastra. And so that is obtainable relatively early on. We have that faith. Anyway, all the points are good points. But my take on that.
It's one thing to realize.
Just as a matter of point here, there's a version of the Mahabharata printed by the New Jaipur Press, and it's written by, edited, produced by Nityananda Prabhu. And in the very conclusion of that book, he's writing here that although altogether Śrī Vyāsadeva composed 6 million verses of the Mahabharata, 3 million were delivered to the heavenly planets, 1.5 million to the Pitri Lokas, 1,400,000 to the Yakshas, and only 100,000 within the human society. So there are so many other stories that we'll never really know until we get purified along the way.
I was just going to say in conclusion, because we really should stop, is that one thing about these stories is that they're so attractive. You pick up the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Mahabharata, and you don't want to put it down, and you never get tired of reading and hearing about these stories. They are spiritual, and they're satisfying to the heart. So, even though we can't put it in our little ultimatus minds, how can this be? But still, they're so attractive. It's a shame people are being fed soap operas or Walt Disney movies instead of getting the real stuff that'll satisfy their hearts. Prabhus, we should really stop. Balabhadra, we really look forward to whenever you can free yourself up there when you've got a free day to give a class. But we're looking forward to the next time you can. And then for everyone else, thank you very much for your association. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srimad Bhagavatam.
Thank you.
Hari Bol, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.